Man, this stuff is crazy. I can't wait to get into this shit. This is UFC 285 reaction, man. I cannot wait to get into this shit. Okay. So, anywho, glad I'm back, ready to do this one. Man, this stuff is it's fun, man. I'm ready to get going. Super excited about seeing UFC 285. Bones Jones showed up, showed out, but I'll get to that. Man, it's fun to watch these things, man. It's fun to watch entertaining fight cards. Did see on social media how some people, some MMA experts, if you will, were bad mouthing it. I don't get it. You know what I mean? I watched some of the undercard. Actually, I watched a lot of the undercard, which I'm not really going to discuss except for Cody Garbrandt. But um, eh, I don't know how you can say that that fight card wasn't entertaining. I thought it was the shit. Um, it's kind of weird how the two after that are so quickly after that. But I again, I thought it was a really good fight card. So first and foremost, again, I'm gonna go ahead and start with Brunson and actually Duplu. I'm gonna call him Duplu because I don't know how to say his last name. That fight was kind of weird, man. I had a reaction to it, and I posted one of my little shorts, and I actually had somebody like from the blue say, "How dare you?" say the fight was trash. You know what I mean? So I'm not necessarily going to get into the fight being like trash, right? But they were freaking tired. Uh, to fight middleweight, 185 pounds, shit, I'm like pushing 185. You got to have the cardio to do these things, right? Because the great guys, the ones that we say, man, they're durable, they got the cardio up. They're the ones that are usually contending for the championship, the belt and stuff. So I'm not with or against the fan that decided to come on my YouTube and say, "Oh man, you can't say they're trash. Come on, bro, they're not trash." You know what? I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm not saying I've done this professionally, but I've rolled before. I have. It's tiring. I am not a professional for that reason. I cannot go five minute rounds. I can't. I'm not built like that. I don't run like that. I don't even have the cardio, regular stuff. Like I'm good for a couple of sprints. I'm old, bro. But I'm just saying, there's a reason why I don't do certain things. I can't do it. That's not to say that I can't comment like that because again, the people who have been great at this sport have been able to sustain in the championship rounds. That was a 3 round fight. In the second round, my man was, hey, like I used to like Brunson. I honestly thought he had a chance to win in the first round. That stuff was crazy. So I don't know. Anyways, the way the fight ended, crazy. The knockout was nice. They kept touching each other. You see a bunch of you know, Bambi legs, if you will, from the both of them in the second round. Actually, at the end of the first round and into the second round. So it was an entertaining fight. Period. Like I said, I'm gonna call him Duplay, whatever. Don't know how to say his last name, but the dude is crazy. You could tell the skill is there. It's just my man gotta work on the cardio, man. To be 185, not super heavy. I don't know how much they naturally weigh. Right, fighters tend to cut, anywhere between 10 and shit up to 25 pounds. Those are the bigger cuts. I mean, I've heard of bigger than that, but typical cuts and stuff whenever it comes down to those last couple cutting weeks. 10 to 25 pounds is usually right around, I guess, I would say the averages from what I've heard. So to be on a cut like that, to me, it just would think that he was still on that cut, right? The man's probably walking around naturally at like 205, fighting at 185. But to be that tired in the second round, that's crazy. That's crazy. They pushed up on each other a little bit, but anyways, it was a really entertaining fight. I liked it. Cody Garbrandt, man, uh, he won. Okay, former champion. He had the antics, right? He had the footwork, the hands, the everything that kind of made it look like he was back. But I don't know if it was DC, Daniel Cormier, or who, one of the analysts that were talking about how he didn't necessarily look like he was himself 100%. Um, they kept trying to feed us into it, right? Us as in the fans, the spectators. They kept trying to kind of feed us into it, but I couldn't buy it because my man wasn't throwing his hands the way he had done against Dominic Cruz. They acknowledged that. They acknowledged that he had beaten a prime Dominic Cruz, and he did. He took the belt from him, if I'm not mistaken. So to for me to see that type of fight, Cody Garbrandt to sort of, and I'm gonna call him antics. I'm not gonna say necessarily that wasn't in his training camp to make sure he was showing his speed, make sure he was showing um, his hands, his feet work, his footwork, and all that stuff. But I will say that he didn't throw his hands the way he's done in the past. Um, I don't know if that was something that got beat out of him by like TJ Dillashaw or somebody else, but he did not look like himself. I know he sustained a couple losses just recently. Um, he hasn't necessarily put himself back on, in my opinion, back on that championship run. But I will say, he did look good. He did look like he was progressing to be in championship shape. It did look like he could have gone a couple more rounds. I mean, my man's fought in championship rounds before, having the belt prior. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know about his durability and things like that. He just had a few fights recently that don't necessarily sell me into, and that's the reason why he was on undercard and at the pay per view card, was because again, Kara France and fought losses. Um, shoot, Munoz. Um, those losses are big losses. They show that Cody Garbrandt wasn't back to himself. They show that he wasn't necessarily back to that championship caliber. So again, getting a good win in this fight card, in this undercard, was good, and I can't wait to see him kind of like move up in competition to see if he's kind of still got it or not. Um, the bantamweight division is kind of one of those that I want to say is a toss up. I don't necessarily think that it's one of those divisions that has that solidified champion that doesn't necessarily say that somebody can go in and on any given night, on a good night for somebody, they can't just go in and win the belt. So it'd be good to see Cody Garbrandt, see if he can get back into it and see get back into that com, oof, competition, and the quality of fighter it would take to be a championship contender, right? So all right, so moving on, the first fight, the very first fight of the pay per view, Bo Nickel and Jamie Pickett. Man, that kid is crazy, right? I was watching the highlights. I don't know too much about this guy, right? Um, I did hear that they mentioned him being a champion wrestler. So based on the highlights, based on the Ultimate Fighter stuff, I was like, man, this kid has had some opportunities because he is as electric as he is. Um, man, he looked fucking good, dude. He actually looked like somebody who could step in and compete like right now. Um, Obviously in the UFC, Dana White's not going to just kind of start to push those people forward and kind of force them into those championship fights. Minus the Henry Cejudos, the John Joneses, those guys. Like they could leave and come back and be perfectly fine. Get championship type fights because they've left and they've been that goat status, right? I said that on another social media platform. That goat status. Those guys are completely different. They're cut from a different cloth. They compete at a different level. They prepare at a different level because they've sustained it and they've been there before. They know what it takes to kind of get back to it, right? But again, Bo Nickel, man, that's crazy. And to be honest with you, I know he finished the fight quick, but it's not to say that he could not have competed with the the Duplus, as I called them, or the Brunsons. I mean, I feel like he would have put both of them to work as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what fight he ends up with next. Um, it did sound like he was going to get some type of push forward. to, with his undefeated record. I mean, it's only 4-0, but uh, with how he's been able to finish people, his opponents, it's going to be interesting to see what fight he ends up with next. I would think, top 10, top 7 type fight. And if he does get it and shows up, shows out, I could imagine. I mean, him getting like a top 3 or 4 fight right after that. So he's going to be one to watch out for, man. I'm kind of excited because again, I hadn't seen him fight before. Um, so seeing him in this light on the pay-per-view fight card, in such a big fight card with John Jones, it's going to be interesting to see going forward. Like I said, what fight he ends up with next. Moving on, the Neil, I'm gonna call, oh well, Rockmanov, but I'm just gonna call him Rock. That fight was crazy too. It was super entertaining. Um, it I, I'll never understand because I've never been a professional fighter, and honestly, I will take any feedback from anybody who's done any type of actual um, professional fights before, whether they be boxers, MMA, anything like that, right? I'll take any feedback possible about weight cuts and stuff like that because I'm very interested when it comes to that. In my analysis, if you will, right, being a fan, a spectator, I think of the most basic terms possible. You are a professional, period. That is your job. That being said, when fighters don't make weight, if it happens once, I get it, right? You might have had a double cheeseburger like three days prior or 4 weeks prior, and you're just like, shit, shouldn't ate that double cheeseburger. I get it, I do. I promise I do. But when fighters don't make weight, and it comes into all this speculation, this drama, if they're even going to keep the fight, if they're going to move the fight, have a catch weight fight. If the other fighter even agrees to it, I'll never understand that. So Neil not making weight, super frustrating as a fan because I really, really want and think that again, as professionals, these guys are gonna prepare themselves like professionals. They're gonna prepare themselves for a fight. You're scheduled to fight in a pay-per-view fight, and I'm not just gonna keep saying John Jones, but I'm just saying these UFC fight cards. They normally happen once a month. Um, within the next few weeks. Obviously, there's three within the next. It's like a 6 week span, but still, man, like that is your job. That is your job. Um, I could only imagine like different aspects. I don't even have anything to compare it to, like for my own professional sense. Um, maybe with the military stuff, like hey, like the weight that we got to meet in the weight. It's not as stringent, but again, I'm not. It's not me against someone else. The military, it's you against you. You know the standards. They are the same standards. They stay that way the whole time. I would think the fighters would think the same thing, but again, to not make weight, super frustrating. Rant over. Neil not making weight again. Rock was like, I don't give a shit, and I give him all the credit in the world. I haven't seen too much of this guy. I'm not gonna lie and say, oh man, I've known this dude since we were tykes. No, I do not know Rachmanov. But what I will say is, I did do my research before the fight card yesterday, and to see that this dude has finished every fucking fight, that is crazy to me. A buddy said yesterday, he was like, those are video game numbers. They really are. Like those are cheat code type numbers. Like you're not only playing the damn game, but you got your up down down left right ba start. Um, that's crazy. That's insane. Like you're finishing everyone, man. If this dude doesn't have a top fight, his next fight, that I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked. I'm gonna call Dana. Got his number. Just kidding. I don't have his number. I'm just saying. I'd be shocked if this dude doesn't get a good fight the next one. Like, and I'm not saying just good, but like a top tier type guy. Because man, 17-0, dude has finished everyone, and it's various ways, it's methods, various methods, knockouts. It's um, different type of submissions, things like that. That is fucking crazy. Like I could not wrap my head around it when I finally saw that, and again did my little bit of back research before the fight card. I was like, man, that's nuts. It doesn't matter at what level you've never lost, and you've never had to see the end of the fight. Like there's never been like, all right, let's go to the scorecards. No, it didn't matter. Dude was losing or could have been losing on several different freaking scorecards and still got the finish. So it didn't matter. You wipe it all away. That's legitimately leave no doubt. Leave no fucking doubt. Knock him out, submit him, do whatever you need to do. It literally looked like he was about to get knocked out yesterday. My man stumbled hard. I think it was counter right. Boom, rocked him. Neil kind of stumbled. They were like within a few punches of each other, getting rocked back. And then to just get the submission. Holy shit, man. That fight was crazy. Um, crazy. Hats off to Rock, man. He really, really, really got a new fan in me. I can't wait to see his next fight. 100%. I cannot wait to see dude's next fight. All right, moving on. Um, the Gamrot Turner fight. I don't want to get 100% into that one. I really don't. It's no knock to those guys, but the fight was started real slow, and the way the fight was progressing, how it was, in the start of the second round and how it ended was like Turner sort of turning a gear, like turning it on. Um, I wasn't rooting for either one of them, but I will say that like at the start of the second round, when Turner was doing his thing, he was doing well for a good two, I think 3 minutes, and then ended up getting taken down. And as soon as he got taken down, it was like he had nothing. It was to the point where Gamrot was like able to just adjust him, and pretzel my man and just start laying down. Excuse me, elbows, punches, things like that. Made Turner look really, really bad on the ground. Um, third round, same thing. They go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Turner does a little bit. It's kind of too little, too late. That's why judges scorecards, it was kind of a funky one where you had 3 rounds to none, 2 rounds to one, and then you actually had 1 round to two. So the other side, so Turner, it's like that one judge actually said the second round was Turner. Um, you can give the argument because of control time, because of time on the ground, because of the upper advantage, if you will, of the second round. I feel like that one was the one that was kind of like the deciding factor, and it was only because again Turner looked really good for nearly 3 minutes. Right, he had the majority of the round. But man, whenever Gamera got on top of him, he was just yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, making putty out of my man's face. That's just crazy. Knocking the braids out of his. But no, he just Gamrot looked really good on top position, top guard, whatever. I think he stayed in full guard up to like the last 30 seconds, and then um, Gamrot was like outside of the guard. He was just, hey mate, man, beating the brakes off a dude. And that's why I said that second round is so hard, I would imagine, to score because, again, if you look at just totality of the round, 5 minute round, Turner had about three plus minutes, 3.5 minutes. Gamrot had like the last minute and a half, 2 minutes if. But just how he dominated in the last minute, minute and a half, I would imagine swayed the referees to kind of just go his route. Um, but yeah, that second round was super duper important. Good win for Gamrot. Don't know what's next. Uh, as a lightweight, um, shoot, I'd have to actually look up his ranking. I didn't look it up before. Again, that fight to me was like, all right. Looking at his record, I see a 22-2, solid record. It's just when you have a Turner come in, I believe he was a late fill-in on the fight card, and to be a late fill-in and to still kind of put in work. I always like feel a little different about the catch weight fights for the guys that miss weight, and the fighters that get added to the card late, because of injuries and missed weight and stuff like that, right? So I always feel super weird about that, and you just would naturally expect the fighter who was prepared, or had a full camp to just be ready to roll. Clearly, Turner looked like he was ready to fight, but Gamrot was just a little bit too much preparation, I guess. So again, kudos to Gamrot. Now to the championship fights. So the two championship fights, man, they were interesting. Like, I could not help but cringe a little because, again, as a fan of the UFC, um, totally, just everything, you see these certain fighters and you begin, because the um, network, ESPN or whatever, the UFC label puts certain people like on that pedestal, and you start to think that these fighters are never going to lose, right? Um, I get mocked because I was sort of a fan of Ronda Rousey, so when she got kicked in the face by Holly Holm, it was just like, Ryan, yeah, your girl got knocked out, dude. I don't care. Like, she doesn't do anything for me, right? I'm not married to this woman. I would have fought Holly Holm if I was. We don't got to do all that, right? So again, seeing somebody that sort of paved the way for other women like Ronda Rousey getting knocked out, it was a shock to the world. Um, Cyborg, right? Cyborg Amanda Nunez. That was a huge freaking fight, women fight. And to see Amanda Nunez just sort of have her way, it was something that everybody was like, just like not expected, because Cyborg had been that type of fighter that had just come into the ring and just been so ruthless, so savage, that nobody really contended with her. So when Amanda Nunez was like, "Yeah, I'll fight that bitch. What's up?" Um, and, man, she beat the brakes off of her, right? So Shevchenko is one of those fighters that you had on a pedestal that you're just like, there's no way Shevchenko loses. She's been so dominant about other fighters. Amanda Nunez is the only one that's like made her look silly, right? That was more so power. And that was whenever they sort of, Shevchenko was gonna like try out 145. Um, Amanda Nunez said, "Nah, bitch, this ain't you. You lose some weight, you go back down." Um, but nobody at 135 had challenged her, or 125. Sorry. Nobody had challenged her. So to have what happened, where it also went in there and had her on the feet, right? Um, the whole freaking time I'm watching the damn fight, I'm like, use your legs, kick her in the fucking face. And Shevchenko never did. Grasso stayed on top. She was ready to roll. Like, she looked like the better boxer. She looked like, I mean, honestly, she looked like the more prepared fighter. It was kind of crazy because, again, you hadn't seen Shevchenko with her back against the fence, or back against the wall the way she was, and that's why when she was so willing to wrestle and she was so willing to take her down, you could tell she knew in her head that she wasn't ready to stay up, because she was losing the hand to hand, so she was losing on the feet. Um, Shevchenko didn't really want to see her on the feet anymore, and that was kind of, it was different. It was a shock, and it was kind of weird. But you're just like, dude, this is crazy. Okay, maybe the page is turning. So when the end of the fight, when Grasso was able to take her back, it looked like, I wouldn't necessarily say Shevchenko like quit on it, right? But what I will say is it looked like she was more willing at that point to again, not to concede, but Grasso was getting the best of her. Um, she knew she was losing the fight. She was desperate. She had to make different actions, right? So when she turned in that which way, where Grasso was able to get her back, and once she had sort of like close enough to her neck, it didn't look like Grasso was gonna try to let her go at all. Um, I'm screaming at the TV, "Holy shit, this is about to happen!" Hooks in. Actually, no, she never got. I don't think she ever got the body triangle with her legs, but hooks in, had her stretching her out. You saw Shevchenko's neck still down. It's just at some point, somebody that's kind of wrote a little bit before, you already knew that she was in such a position that the only way she was getting out of it is if the bell saved her or if the referee stood him up. In that case, there was no way the referee was going to stand him up. So when she had her back, sort of had her stretched out, I said, had her stretched out, even though Shevchenko's head was down, it was already looking as if Grasso had the best of her. And to see, I think it was just over a minute left in the fight. I was like in my head, like that's it, it's over. I'm like screaming at the TV, it's fucking over. It was over because there's no way in hell, even with your chin down, fighting the freaking rear naked. There's no way in hell if you're not able to twist your body to get your neck off of that freaking that X, if you will, right? There's no way you're lasting that long. It doesn't matter if you don't get choked out. The shit still hurts. If you've ever rolled before, ever been in any type of choke before, even if it's close, it still fucking hurts. So the lasting image in my head was whenever Joe Rogan after the fight acknowledged the colored discoloration on Shevchenko's face. Man, that was crazy. Um, I gotta try to post a picture on either this video or in the comment block because the picture that I have captured it like badass, right? There was like a chin strap on Shevchenko, and it was as soon as Grasso let her go, you just see this huge white chin strap just on Shevchenko. The top of her face is completely bloodshot red. She was going out. Um, Again, it didn't matter if the choke was perfect or not. She was going out. She had massive blood loss to the rest of her body, man. She was like, as soon as she got let go, right? So you already knew she was getting choked even a little bit. She wasn't lasting a minute. So again, as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, it's fucking over. She lost a little bit. Oh my god. And I missed him on parlay, so I was pissed about that. But good for her, man. I mentioned on a short, I can't stand when DC says Viva Mexico. That shit pisses me off. I don't know why. Well, uppercut him. I'd lose a fight, but I would get one good shot and run as fast as I fucking could. Um, but yeah, man, to see another Mexican fighter win, Moreno celebrating Grasso the way he was, man, that was cool. That was good. New champion. I would like to think that with additional preparation, now that Shevchenko kind of knows Grasso's style and her um, the method to her madness, if you will, how she's going to go into the fight, if she goes in similarly or the same. I would like to think that Shevchenko's the type of champion that's going to prep for the rematch and sort of make the adjustments. So again, if they're not both playing chess, Grasso's playing checkers and Shevchenko's playing chess, I would think in a rematch Shevchenko would get the best, but it's always interesting to see the champ stay the champ. So if Grasso actually beats her twice, then again, it's like my hat's off, man. That's crazy. That'd be a badass victory if she's able to beat her twice. Um, so anyways, the main event, man. God, dog. You know, I'm a John Jones fan. A lot of people, well, anybody that talks UFC with me knows that I'm a John Jones fan. My family knows I'm a John Jones fan. They gotta know because I talk about dude enough, right? Just like I'm a Money Mayweather fan and fans of other uh, people that get ridiculed by not only media but by other fans. LeBron James, all that stuff, right? Everybody likes to be like, oh, you can't believe you like those fucking guys. Well, you know what I do? Kiss my ass. John Jones is crazy. Now, I'm not even going to get into the personal side of this stuff because, again, there are some things that I don't necessarily agree with. But his opportunity to come back, again, I didn't give it to him. So, therefore, I'm just a fan of the game. I'm not a fan of the antics and the other shit that kind of happened on the outside of things. To be honest with you, there's going to be people that are going to be judgmental everywhere. He's never going to please 100% of the people that are around him. Um, and I would say like 80% of the people disagree with some of the legal stuff he had to deal with, not just the drugs. Again, I'm not going to go into detail with what had happened, but the issue with the pregnant woman. But a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, especially on like the um, the various MMA social media accounts, have discussed their distaste for John Jones and him even getting an opportunity in the first place. But again, getting into the fight, Cyril Gane's a very, 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 very dangerous opponent. Um, his fight against Derek Lewis, man, you would think that he was just a big ass middleweight, right? I mean, he moved like it. He was confident. He was ready to go, and Derek Lewis simply wasn't. So when I'm looking at this fight going into it, I'm like, man, Saragon's a bad fucking dude. Loses to Francis Ngannou, I get it. Um, and then knocks out Tuivasa. Tuivasa's a bad dude too, right? Knockout specialist. My man's super good on the feet. He's uh, one of those guys that's tough as nails, that stays in a fight, throws his hands, isn't afraid to get hit. So to beat again, to beat the brakes off of Derek Lewis for the interim belt, and then lose to Francis Ngannou, but to come right back with Tuivasa and just dismantle my man. Um, Going into this fight, you were like, man, because he moves so well against these other guys, even against freaking Francis Ngannou, he looked good. He moved well. Francis was just a powerful guy. It looked like he was going to have a match of power with Francis, but I mean, again, he didn't. So that fight going to decision made you believe that going into this fight, he was the more relevant fighter because again, he's been fighting the last couple years, and John Jones had been out for 3 years. So it was interesting going into it, but again, as I mentioned earlier, the goats train differently. You don't. Nobody has to agree with me with John Jones GOAT status. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna give it to him. The dude is one of, if not the best all time UFC fighter like ever. I really don't see a fair argument with anybody outside of GSP, George St. Pierre. I'm trying to think. I mean, Stipe was just a heavyweight. He's been a big boy. I mean, he's owned that weight class. Francis looked good. He just hasn't had it for that longevity. Um, you had like Rashad Evans who had his time. You had Chuck Liddell who had his time. You had Conor McGregor who had his time. Like all these guys had their time, but nobody had the longevity, man. And to me, that's one of the more important things on a lot of stuff. I mean, Wayne Gretzky in hockey is the great guy he is because his longevity, right? Going to baseball, Cal Ripken is in the argument of greatest of all time. Why? Because he's got the record that's never going to be broken, the most consecutive games. Like these are records that just don't get touched. So for John Jones to have what 15, I think, championship fights under his belt, that's nuts, man. The dude has fought anybody who's in front of him, anybody, and has made everybody look silly. You can make a discussion for Anthony Smith. You can make a discussion for um, other fighters, like even the fight with like DC and stuff like that. Like DC looked really well against him until he got knocked out. Um, so John Jones's greatness, He's essentially an undefeated fighter with that one like loss, if you will, because of disqualification type stuff. But John Jones is John Jones, man. The dude's at 27-1, and the one really was a win, but then got changed to a loss because the man's 28-0, 15 championship fights, crazy. So going into the ring again, I was like kind of nervous, like as a fan, nervous to watch somebody that I think is as great as he is go into this fight because he has that extra weight on and all that other jazz. Um, to really see the skill that came with it was something that I was interested in. He's not going to lose any of his skill. I wasn't worried about him coming in unskilled or looking slow like like Nick Diaz. But I will say a lot of time off, usually makes those fighters rusty. Um, but man, he came in, put pressure immediately. I was honestly thinking it was going to be a knockout, but to put the pressure immediately, really didn't get scathed at all. Gon looked nervous, like going into the fight. Even when they touched gloves, he was just kind of unsure because you have to respect the fighter on the other side. And I think Gon felt that like 100%. Would he come back and do something different in a rematch? Maybe, but John Jones is John Jones, man. He took him to the mat. Didn't even have a really good guillotine, in my opinion. It kind of looked like more of his forearm that was right on the front of Gon's throat. And as soon as he folded his head, you just saw the wincing in Gon's face. He was just like, "Nope, I'm not having this. That fucking hurts. Get me out of here." John Jones, the confidence after the fight, the appreciation after the fight to the fans and everybody else. To be honest, it's cool. Like I said, to me, it's warming, but to other people, they're not going to accept it, and that is what it is. You're not going to please everybody. But John Jones is John Jones, man. He's great. I'm kind of interested to see the next fight. Obviously, I would think it would happen pretty quickly, and if they are able to speed it up with Stipe, man, that'd be freaking awesome. I couldn't wait for that fight. That'd be a really really badass fight. Um, Last time we had somebody try to challenge up a weight class and stuff like that. With Izzy, he got made look silly. So I'd be very interested to see this John Jones Stipe fight. I would have loved to see John Jones and Ngannou, but all the reports after this UFC 285 have already said Ngannou's not coming back for anything. He's not going to be allowed back because whatever the contract stuff and all that other shit that they've been dealing with. But anyways, those are my reactions from UFC 285. Man, it was a great fight card. UFC 286, I'm really only interested in seeing like the main event at this point, and then 287 is I think about a little over a month away. That fight card is shoot, who was the fight card? The UFC 287 is the Izzy fight against Pajeda. That one's gonna be cool, man, because the actually to me the top two fights, the Gilbert Burns and the Jorge Masvidal. I was about to say George, my bad. Jorge Masvidal. That fight's super interesting to me, just because Jorge likes to talk all that shit, and then Alex Pereira and Izzy. I can't see Izzy coming back for a third match. I mean, obviously, he has to earn another match if he loses this next one. So, anyways, I'm looking forward to these next fight cards. But those are my two UFC 285 reactions. Please, again, like, comment, share, subscribe, do everything you need to do. Join me in these things. Leave some comments. Give me some feedback. I love to respond to anything. Um, you guys want to chop it up on the side, reach out to me in any other social media outlet you got me on. But for now, I'm outie, man. Y'all take care. Y'all have a good one. Be blessed.